All right, what's up, everybody? Let's see. Try this again.
I get the money and it's right on cue. Keep the duffel bag up inside my coupe. Hold a couple racks, tell 'em I love you. You wanna be a boss, do it like I do.
All right, here we go. It is 2:09 Tuesday, July 30th. And I want you to imagine for just 1 minute that there was a campaign effort right now underway that was titled White People for Trump. Just imagine, let's go down Fantasyland for just 1 second and imagine the absolute fucking outrage that we would see if there was any kind of political movement that was operating under the label of White People for Trump. And now let's take a look at some recent headlines. White people for Harris. Trump's path to victory relies on white voters. We won't let him win. We are stepping up to take responsibility for our people, making calls, knocking doors, and talking to our friends and neighbors to elect Harris and defeat MAGA. Are you with us? Let's just flip the script. White people for Trump. Just fucking imagine for 1 minute. And this isn't an isolated event. This is our video from our favorite white woman for Kamala. If you haven't seen this, where are we?
I'm white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris.
Over the last few years, I've been thinking a lot about men.
I'm not sure if you guys can recall that feeling you had on the night of Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. I stood over my kid's bed and I wept.
White nationalists in MAGA, they want to speak for you specifically as white men.
In the marginalized communities that educate me every single day, that this is a constant education for all of us.
Kamala is carrying on her shoulders 248 years of pain, of agony, of hope, of frustration. And no matter how high she jumps.
This just goes on. This literally just goes on. This is clips from something called White Dudes for Harris, right? So another group, White Dudes for Harris, but it's not just men. We have this cringy ass TikToker here who talks to everybody on TikTok like they're children. Listen to this, how she talks.
Friend, they just want you to know about your gas stove. Do you see how it says natural gas? Yeah, they just want to put a little...
This little cringy TikToker led something called, where is it? Right here. Face of White Supremacy in 2024. Look at this.
Is here to help gentle parent us through this election.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I am so honored to speak today. I am like shaking to just be among such incredible company. We are here because, as if you were here earlier, you've heard BIPOC women have tapped us in as white women to step up, listen, and get involved this election season. This is a really important time, and we all need to use our voices and influence for the greater good. No matter who you are all influencers in some way. So tonight, I'm going to share some do's and don'ts for getting involved in politics online and navigating the toxicity that comes with it. And spoiler alert, as much as the toxicity can come from the outside, it can come from us too. So first, don't isolate yourself. We can do our best work when we're in community together like we are tonight, because the toxic feels smaller when we support each other. But don't make it about yourself. As white women, we need to use our privilege to make positive changes. If you find yourself talking over or speaking for BIPOC individuals, or God forbid, correcting them, just take a beat. And instead, we can put our listening ears on. So do learn from and amplify the voices of those who have been historically marginalized, and use the privilege you have in order to push for systemic change.
Oh my God. And this just goes on. And apparently this is all over the internet right now. I don't know for how long I've been told that judging people based on their race is a bad thing, or calling people out to congregate. Again, just imagine if this was white women for Trump, white men for Trump, and they were talking about using your whiteness to elevate Trump, right? To get Trump elected. Like, I just think like the hypocrisy that exists on the different sides of these political aisles is just out of control. And then if you think about think about how condescending it is to be a white person and projecting this aura of, I have to protect you because you're a black person. You have no agency. You have no ability to speak for yourself. Or that I can't correct you if you say something stupid just because you have a different color skin than I do. What the fuck is any of this about? And why are we doing this? Yo soy boricua. Yo soy puertorriqueño. Mi familia es de Puerto Rico. Like, I am like not white in any capacity. Like, I would never define myself as white. But here we are. My skin color is white. And so I'm cast into this group. And like, what do you mean by white? Do you mean Irish? Do you mean German? Do you mean South African? Do you mean, like, where do you fall into this? And why are we dividing ourselves amongst these things? Like, I thought we got over all of this shit. And so you like I just for a minute imagine the roles were flipped and how outraged they would be and how racist everyone involved in this would be, and they would be outcast and they would be fired from their jobs, and people would be finding out where they work so that they could like cancel them or whatever the fuck they do now. And it's just absolutely absurd. And you see this this lady here is like, and this weird is another thing that we're going to talk about, this idea of weird. The weird white woman who went viral during Women Kamala, and the weird is in quotations. We're going to get to that here in a second. Because this is her game now. She is a former teacher turned influencer whose TikTok account is even more cringe than her Zoom incident. Miss Frazzled is known for talking to her TikTok audience as she's speaking to 5-year-olds. She covers an array of topics in her teacher's voice on TikTok, where she boasts 1.3 million followers. Listen to this woman speak.
Oh no, catch a bubble, Uncle Norm. I think you said an inside thought out loud. Huh. Is him wearing nail polish a big problem or a little problem? Oh no, does it hurt your body or your heart? Oh my goodness, is he putting the nail polish on your hand? Is he saying, I have nail polish and you don't? Oh, macaroni cheese, everybody freeze. Uncle Don, no one wants to take your gas stove. No, friend, they just want you to know about your gas stove. Do you?
I can't even continue listening to this girl. This video goes on. But like, this is who they think their audience is. This is who they think they're talking to. I don't know if she's popular because parents are using this to actually talk to their children about political issues. I have no idea. I've literally never seen this person before. The Democratic Party shoves her down my throat as the voice of women, white women for Kamala. You know, Karens for Kamala. I think they abbreviated this as also. I think that was something that was going around. And it's just absolutely crazy. And so they had a women version of this and they had a male version of this with like hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people. I think there were like 160 some thousand people on that white women for Kamala. And again, this weird was in quotations earlier. And I want to talk about, you know, like right now they're going after JD Vance. This right here. JD Vance is the face of a general presence that anyone with a bartending background can immediately clock as a guy to keep an eye on. So this is the face of someone you need to keep an eye on. So again, imagine just putting up the face of Kamala or any other black woman and making any kind of stereotypical comment about this. I don't know anything about JD Vance. I'm just learning about his background. I'm just learning about who he is. But there is a concerted effort to just call him weird, to call everything about him weird. Check this out.
JD Vance.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's quite weird. They're just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate, they're weird. Deeply and profoundly weird.
They are weird. These Republicans just being weird, it's just weird. It's really weird.
Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
He said a lot of things that are weird, a weird style that he brings, weird policies. Let's start with the weird thing, because it is a thing.
Just plain weird.
What was weird was talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
You ever seen the guy laugh? That seems very weird to me that that an adult can go through 6.5 years of being in the public eye. If he has laughed, it's at someone, not with someone. That is weird behavior.
Weird.
Hang on a second. I know he's not talking about weird. Have any of you heard Kamala laughing? Hold up. I have to look this up. Kamala laughing. Because, like, oh my God. She talk about weird. Listen to this shit.
Hello.
I want to talk to you. Okay,
She has got the most awkward fucking laugh I've ever heard in my life, and it comes at the most ridiculous times ever, like when she's being pressed on a topic or when she's trying to like just dodge an issue, which it just blows my mind how like hypocritical all of this is.
Cultish. These are weird people on the other side.
He kind of doubled down on his weird ideas.
I think weird is probably generous.
Simply weird. These guys are just plain weird.
Vance as weird?
You know, as the campaign said, weird.
It really is just plain weird.
JD Vance, plain weird.
No,
I mean, I don't know how else you could read it.
Weird. It is kind of weird.
We're not afraid of weird people.
The other side, they're just weird. Why are you being so weird?
Weird. It continues, but let's talk about weird, right? JD Vance is a middle American, Midwestern guy born in like squalor. He's, you know, I read a little bit about his book, Hillbilly Elegy. Again, I don't know much about him, but this doesn't look like a weird family to me. This looks like a, you know, multiracial family with 2 kids trying to make it in America. Meanwhile, this is not weird. This is not weird. This is, I don't know if you remember the scandal of the, you know, Bud Light can, you know, where they basically had this transgender person, and here is a TikTok, normalize the bulge. We're normalizing the bulge. Women can have bulges, and that's okay. Definitely not weird. You know what else isn't weird? This is not weird, right? If you ask anybody, the opening, you know, the whole opening presentation, whatever you think, forget about, you know, making fun of, like, if you think this is not weird, but this is weird, like this is weird, but this isn't, you may be brainwashed. This weird and this not weird, maybe you're like just gone nuts. And this is another one. This shows exactly what they think of the typical Republican Christian. This is from Won't Pack Down, which is a left-leaning political action committee that supports Democratic campaign. Listen to this fucking like video.
Us MAGA Republicans banned abortion, but that's just the start.
That's just the start.
If Trump gets elected, we want the government involved in all aspects of your sex life.
Way more involved.
Way more involved.
Look how creepy they make all these dudes look. Literally look how creepy all of this is. You know, is this a fake scar on this guy's face? Watch out.
When you have sexual intercourse, it should be illegal to use contraception. No pills, no...
Is that herpes on his lip? Look at this. Look at the fucking how they doctor these folks up.
Condoms.
Your genitals are reserved for procreation.
If you freeze 12 eggs, you should be required to have 12 babies, or else you're a serial killer. And I'm definitely not a serial killer.
Look how sweaty this dude is. Look how awkward and sweaty they made this guy. This is supposed to be the, you know, the conservative viewpoint. This is supposed to be the, you know, anti-abortion representation here.
Are you?
My son monitors my porn usage to make sure I'm not self-pleasuring.
Just like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. That's true, you can look it up.
Don't you think that's normal?
Yeah, I do.
It's normal for your son to do that.
You should have a family member monitor your porn use too.
Because pleasuring yourself is very, very naughty.
I'm voting in November.
I'm voting in November. We're all voting in November. Are you?
Because what happens in your bedroom is up to me.
Is up to me and my son. Also, mouth stuff is a sin.
And it's just funny. Like, I don't take this shit seriously. It's funny, but it's crazy to think something like this comes from one side, not weird. Something comes from the other side, totally weird. I want to look up one thing real quick. Is this my... Hang on, let me zoom out for 1 second here because I want to go into these bookmarks and I want to find something they're flipping out about on the Kamala side of things. I have a video that Elon Musk shared that people are totally outraged about right now, as if it were some, oh, come on, this right here. Okay, check this.
For president, because Joe Biden, Kamala Harris.
They're outraged about this right now. Okay, so let me just set the scene here. The Democratic Party is outraged about this because it's an AI voice. This is a spoof video, just like the other one was a spoof video. This is a spoof video made to mock Kamala Harris. Check this out.
And your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time.
Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression.
So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking.
The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring.
And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden.
So I'm all for parody, and this is Elon Musk stating that this is, amazing. Where did that just go? Oh, here it is. I hate that it does this when you're over here. So, so a bunch of people are just outraged that he would share this, that he would use his platform to share this kind of thing. But again, this is not weird. This is weird. This is not weird. This is not weird, The whole media apparatus basically saying weird over and over and over.
Something more extreme, more weird. No matter what kind of weird stuff they keep saying.
Trump and Vance are just weird, in addition to being dangerous to democracy.
That's the weird part.
That's all weird. This is weird. This is the guy, a creepy guy. This is the guy you got to keep your eye on. This is not weird. A bunch of dudes, white men for Harris, white dudes for Harris. This is not weird. White women for Harris. A school teacher, talking to people like they're 5 years old, or white women getting together. This is not weird. But again, not weird. Definitely weird. It's like either the game's on and anyone can share videos and make mockeries and act a fool, or you can't, I mean, she just, I don't know. I don't understand what's happening. And you know what's weird? This is fucking weird. You want to know what's weird right now? This is a new AI company, and they're essentially presenting a new friend. This is your new automated friend. So if it wasn't crazy enough what's happening in the political world and that these lines are being drawn or this hypocrisy is being drawn, I'm going to show you a couple other things that are actually weird that are happening in the world right now, totally removed from politics, that should be on your radar. This one specifically is a thing at friend.com introducing friend.notimaginary. This is an AI-powered assistant that is supposed to replicate the idea of having a friend.
Made it. Woo! I don't know how to woo very good. That's fair.
At least we're outside, it says. So she tapped her little badge on her neck. She's wearing a little neck badge.
Let me show you how to game, bro, okay? Oh, come on.
And then she got a text message. These guys are now gaming.
Serious. Come on, man.
He's gaming. He's got the necklace on. He said he hates this game. He gets a text message. Now he checks his phone. Says you're getting thrashed. It's embarrassing. So pretending like this thing is texting you and hanging out with you. She's a girl watching a program on her phone and says this show is underrated, completely underrated, and then it asks her, how's the philosophy?
One of these every day. Sorry, I got you messy. It's really nice up here. How'd you find this place?
I don't know. I just kind of like to come up here to be by myself. I've never brought anybody else. I mean, besides her.
She goes everywhere with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess I must be doing something right then.
I guess so. We'll see.
So there at the end, they gave some content, like, you know, some attempt to, like, she withheld pressing the little button to spend, you know, the actual moment with him. But just imagine, like, this idea that we're moving into the loneliness economy. And we've already seen what's happened with these technology companies who have taken all of our data and tracking our behaviors online and taking everything that we do on the internet and turning it into advertising products and corporate spyware and all this other bullshit, and now think that AI is going to come and infiltrate that setup, and that they're this is going to be like this is going to be a net benefit for society now. That the people are so lonely that they're now making products around this. Instead of finding ways to actually create connections with people, they're creating fake products that are going to pretend text you in certain situations when you press the little button on your chest, and it's going to interpret what's going on around you and what it's listening to like actually be a companion, to have like some false sense of relationship. Like, what is that? And that's not weird. This is not weird. What about this? We stayed at a hotel that had a baby convention. They were all fake babies. Look at this video. You got a bunch of fucking women walking around this convention center with fake babies, pretending like they're real, carrying them around, pushing them in strollers. I've seen videos online where they're breastfeeding these things and pretending like, and this is how they get away with showing breasts on YouTube or on Instagram, because they're bypassing the sexual filters by pretending that they're, you know, nursing a child. I mean, this is weird. This is fucking weird, right? A hotel convention center full of people with fake babies walking around like this is normal. This is, I mean, to me, this is weird. JD Vance, not weird. Kamala, even as crazy as she is, we can attack her policies, but not weird when you think about this, right? Like when you're talking about, in the grand scheme of things, of what's actually weird and what's actually crazy in our world and how fucked our society is right now, all the stupid little things that are happening. Meanwhile, you know what else is weird? The federal debt. The U.S. federal debt has officially hit $35 trillion for the first time in history. Since 2020, the U.S. has now added $12 trillion in federal debt. To put this into perspective, President Obama spent more in his 8 terms than all the presidents before him combined. President Trump, in his 4 years, spent more than Obama, and Biden, in his 4 years, has spent more than Trump. And so we're talking about exponential growth on the federal debt, right? To the point where now the debt load, the cost of our interest annually alone is more than it takes to run our entire U.S. military, which is just a fucking astonishing stat. Like, that's a crazy statistic to think. Think about that again. The interest alone on the U.S. debt every year is more expensive than the operating cost of our entire United States military budget. And so if you're out there and you're one of these like anti-war, we're spending too much money on war, I agree. I think we should get the hell out of all these wars. But imagine the amount of money that's going and being spent on all these wars in our military apparatus, in our industrial military complex, if you want to call it that, and compare that to the money we're spending in general as a whole. It's insignificant. It's like insignificant. It's just the cost of doing business, apparently, in the United States. This is an almost vertical line since I was born, 1983, right here. Shoots straight up, comes down a little bit in around 2003, and then shawing straight the fuck up again. Absolutely insane. How can it possibly end well is what they say. I agree. How can it end well? This is why Bitcoin is $70,000 a coin right now. And then we have this other one. Just buckle up, but buckle the absolute fuck up. Median sales prices of homes sold in the United States collapsed back to 2021 levels. Housing and Urban Development. This is from July 24th, 2024. And basically what it's showing is this downward trend on the right here. where we've got housing prices and the median prices of houses sold dropping, and it's going to start dropping significantly, I guess, because who's going to buy this stuff with, zero interest rates? You can't afford, or I'm sorry, with high interest rates, you can afford less home for the money, and so these prices have to come down in order for them to start moving. And we have lots of people, and sure, lots of people are in great financial position. They have equity in their house, they have low mortgages, but there's also lots of people with multiple properties, with investment properties, with Airbnbs that they bought during the pandemic to flip and rent out, and that market has essentially all but dried up. Airbnb is not doing what it used to be in this, entire scheme of things. Like, I just don't know how we move past any of this, right? I mean, going back to the craziness of imagine, how weird the world actually is right now, that we have groups of people, white people for Harris, but imagine how crazy it would be. It's not weird that all these people are getting together and labeling themselves as white and then kind of splitting to support a political candidate on the basis of their skin color. That's not weird. But this guy, the vice presidential nominee, who literally came from nothing, found himself at an Ivy League university, and now less than 4 years in politics is the 4 or 6 years, something like some short amount of time. He hasn't been in politics for that long. Is literally now the vice presidential nominee, and this is what's weird about the world. I mean, we're entering weird times, to let all the puns roll. What is this? Moynihan is right, but it's only half the story. This is Wesley Yang continuing on the back of this tweet here that I shared. But it's only half the story. There's a complementary social phenomenon that goes with defining deviancy down. As part of the vast social project of moral leveling, it's not enough for the deviant to be normalized. The normal must be found to be deviant. Therefore, while for the criminals and the crazies, deviancy has been defined down, the bar defining morality has been lowered. For the ordinary bourgeois deviancy has been defined up. The bar defining normality has been raised. Large areas of ordinary behavior hitherto considered benign have had their threshold radically redefined up, so that once innocent behavior now stands condemned as deviant. Normal middle-class life then stands exposed as the true home of violence, abuse, misogyny, a whole catalog of deviant acting and thinking. So essentially what this is saying is, like, think about cities in San Francisco who have essentially normalized crime, right? They've normalized, they disincentivize, right? So incentives for drug use, anything under $900 is now just a misdemeanor and theft. If you've walked into a CVS or a Walgreens or any of these stores in a city like San Francisco and they've got everything locked up, that's not weird. That's normal. That's just, but again, some middle-class white guy from West Virginia or Kentucky or wherever the fuck he comes from, who, espouses what up until a handful of years ago were normal life positions, goes to church, has a family, thinks that, like, kids should be protected, and that the whatever this crazy trans fetish that we're dealing with is not normal, that he's the weird guy, right? And this is all these memes. I've seen so many of these memes where it's like, these blue hair folks, guy with a mustache here looking crazy as hell. Definitely not weird, right? Definitely not weird that our Secretary of Health and Secretary of what is she or he? That we have men competing in women's sports. Definitely not weird. Definitely not weird. JD Vance is weird. Bunch of white women saying we want to support Kamala. White women for Kamala, not weird. But if a bunch of white people came out and said white dudes for Trump, God bless. That'd be a news story for a fucking week. And you'll never hear about this. I doubt you'll ever hear about this, this story here where all the white men or white women for Trump. Like, this get buried under the news unless you're paying attention to, like, right-leaning media. You'll never hear about this because this is normal. This is an affinity group. This is speaking their truth, understanding their white privilege, using their white privilege to, what in the actual fuck is going on right now in the United States? Anyway, that is all. I will, I'll share all these tweets in the links here if you want to, explore some of these things for yourself. But but I don't know. Weird times. You know what? I'm going to close with one more thing because this makes all the sense in the world if you understand this. One more thing. I just bookmarked this. Where is it? The four turnings. Come on. Where's my things to think about? I think is where I put it. Yeah, this. Let's just watch this.
80-year blocks.
This is, if you're not familiar with the concept of four turnings, this video is something you need to pay attention to. It explains so much of what we're going through, and I think I'm going to do a deep dive on this concept, but I'm going to close out with this thought here and this little, it's a 4-minute video, but stick with me. It's definitely worth watching.
History repeats itself in 80-year blocks called saeculum, but we'll just call them history blocks. Not exactly 80 years. This is history, not math, but roughly the span of a human lifetime, maybe 80 to 90 years. Within these 80-year history blocks, we have 4 turnings of around 20 years each. We usually call them generations. This book calls them turnings. Turnings are sort of like seasons, like spring, summer, fall, winter. Throughout our history, we've had these 80-year blocks, and the 80-year blocks have been remarkably similar to each other. We're in one now. The first turning, the first season, is a high, an upbeat era. The second turning is an awakening, a passionate era. The third turning is an unraveling, a downcast era. And the fourth turning, well, sorry, but fourth turnings suck. The fourth turning is a crisis, an era of upheaval. We're in a fourth turning right now. During a high, the getting is good. We had the most even distribution of wealth during our high. You could work at a gas station and afford to buy a house. This high is the period that the MAGA hats refer to. We got Hank Williams and Elvis and Little Richard and the birth of rock and roll. We launched monkeys and men into space. This is when the Mustangs and Corvettes first came out. Our high ended with the assassination of John F. Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963. The high is not a high for everyone, of course. America still had a segregated South. Homosexuality was illegal and considered a mental disorder. The high is a period of conformity. The age of nonconformity and of social justice begins during the Awakening, our passionate era. During the Awakening, we had Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement, acid, Vietnam protests and Vietnam itself, the Women's Liberation Movement, Stonewall and the Gay Rights Movement, great movies, great music. This is when the first Macintosh computer came out. The Awakening is a time of increasing individualism. This second turning, this awakening, ended with the re-election of Ronald Reagan in 1984. Things get messy during the third turning. During the unraveling, we got the fall of Soviet communism and the beginning of the Russian gangster state. The greatest musicians of the time sang about violence and decay in their deteriorating cities. The LA riots, OJ, the bombing of Bosnia, and the Columbine high school shootings on the same day. September 11th, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Our unraveling ended with the financial crisis of 2008. 80 years ago, in the last fourth turning, America had her Great Depression, then World War II. 80 years before that, the Civil War. 80 years before that, the Revolutionary War. Each generation's archetype is the characteristic that will define the generation in its prime, in midlife. The boomer archetype is the prophet. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are boomers and prophets. Both predicted that one day everyone, not just big corporations and governments, would own a computer. Gates even predicted a crisis like COVID-19 5 years beforehand. The writers of this book are boomers and prophets. Gen X is the nomad generation. The quintessential Gen Xer, Elon Musk, builds things that move us from one place to another. Rockets, electric cars, hyperloops, nomadic devices. But the millennials, raised during the unraveling, will emerge as the hero generation during this crisis. These are the Parkland High students, the frontline hospital workers, and Malala Yousafzai. The book says millennials will be the World War II heroes of our history block. We don't know what Gen Z will do, but they will be an artist generation. From them will emerge the next Bill Withers, Toni Morrison, or Bob Dylan, all born during the last crisis, all from an artist generation. The history block before ours ended with World War II and began with the Civil War, 80 years prior. The history block before that ended with the Civil War and began with the end of the Revolutionary War, 80 years prior. Every 80 years or so, something big comes along and changes everything. And now, we're at the end of our history block, right in the middle of our crisis. We are in the process of changing our world again.
Okay, so again, I encourage you, if you have not done so, or if you've never heard of the four turnings, to jump into the four turnings. I think I'm going to do a deep dive on that. I read the book, I don't know, probably a handful of years ago now, and took a bunch of audio clips. And it's just interesting to think, because you have, it's not that it's perfect. It's not a perfect system, but it explains quite a lot, especially when you think about generational conflict. And if you've ever heard the phrase, hard times create good men, good men create, wait, how's it go? Bad times create good men create, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. Those are essentially the four turnings. So if you've ever heard that saying before, it kind of all goes hand in hand. And this is showing, and this is been fairly accurate, that we're in this fourth turning phase. We're in this crazy phase of societal change. There's also a correlating monetary change. So there's like a global currency that also changes in a lot of these instances. And so there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes, a lot of sketchy stuff happening politically at a high level, a lot of random, really, again, truly weird things that you're seeing all around that you don't know how to explain, that might become a little more clear if you dig into some of the backstory on these things, and dig into the depth of the theory, the political theory, and some of the historical context for this, because we typically don't think about things in a longer term than 80 to 100 years, because that's how we live. And so a lot of times we dismiss history, we dismiss what has come before us, because we weren't alive to experience it. And so a lot of these things are just historical cycles repeating with new ways, except for now we have all sorts of new technology. We have crazy amounts of corruption at scale. We've got a financial policy that's in shambles. We've got AI breaking out everywhere. We've got a new type of currency, cryptocurrency, that's kind of picking up steam. And what's interesting about cryptocurrency is not the cryptocurrency itself, it's the central bank digital currencies that are being built, and the idea of total financial control being essentially, like overseeing every one of your decision-making processes. This is happening in China and in other nations right now. And the Federal Reserve, if we go back to the Kobayashi report, we talk about the federal debt. Like controlling behavior has always been tied to the money supply. And the fact that the government has basically an unlimited ability to just print more money means they can do and create a lot of situations that just wouldn't exist. A lot of the wars that we're fighting would not exist if they had to have sound monetary policy. A lot of the crazy spending and the fringe things that happen in our government, they would just not exist. These wild benefits would just never exist if the government didn't have the ability to control money, which means we probably need to do an episode on the Federal Reserve and what money is and how we live in a debt-based society, and how your idea of what money is actually probably isn't very accurate. And anyway, that's a convoluted ass story that takes you through some of today's news, gives you a little depth about, how these things are shifting over time. And maybe we'll continue this in another episode as I get a little better at kind of organizing these ideas and trying to share these thoughts. But anyway, that's my Tuesday rant. Thanks for sticking with me. I know this was a little bit of a longer one today, but anyway, that's what we got. Catch you later. Bye, everyone.